here today talking to some executives and leaders in mid-market businesses about the challenge that Canadian businesses have with productivity. My name is Mike Henry. I'm the managing partner of Hauser, Henry & Siren. We're a business law firm here in Toronto, Canada, and our focus is on mid-market private companies, helping them grow, helping them succeed. Every year we do a survey of mid-market businesses, and our survey this year was on productivity, which has been a consistent challenge for mid-market businesses. So we wanted to delve deeper and find out what are businesses doing about this problem, how are they overcoming it, and what insights can our panel share with the audience today. I'll make a few introductions. On my right is Tony McGarvey. Tony is the general manager with W.T. Hawkins in Belleville, Ontario. Canada's favorite snack food, I think I could say,
Yes,
the home of the original cheesy. And Tony has been there for many years, having grown up in Belleville. He's a chartered accountant by training and has worked through all aspects, I think, of the cheesy business, and now does a great job running the business there in Belleville. Welcome, Tony.
Great to be here, Mike.
Our next guest is Paul Griffin. Paul is the CEO and co-founder of the Sales Factory, which is a leading B2B lead generation business for IT companies. Under Paul's leadership, the Sales Factory has achieved some significant milestones, including ranking as the 9th top growing company in 2023 and 11th in 2024 by the Globe and Mail. And the Sales Factory is also recognized as an international category leader in outsourced sales and lead generation in 2024 and 2025 by an independent global review organization. So welcome, Paul. Look forward to your comments today. Also joining us is Scott Lafond. Scott is the Vice President of Finance at Keelhauer, one of the leading office furniture manufacturers in Canada and North America. Scott is a member of the strategic leadership team at Keelhauer with responsibilities including finance, accounting, HR, and risk governance. He's a designated CPA and CA, and his career spans 24 years with 17 years in manufacturing. Welcome, Scott.
Pleasure to be here.
Our next guest is Mark Delangelo. Mark is a managing director of I2R, which is a company that specializes in food packaging with aluminum products. He's a strategic professional engineer with operational and commercial leadership experience. He's led teams to deliver improved sales, cost, safety, customer service levels, and employee engagement. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
So I thought we'd start by just getting a sense from everybody around the table of their views on the challenge of productivity and what is the source of that, and where do you think what's the origin, or what are the main reasons for this challenge? Maybe I'll start with you, Paul. What are your thoughts on productivity in Canadian businesses and why we seem to be lagging?
That's a good question. I think just the way the world has kind of changed over the last 5 years has really significantly changed how workers approach work. The move from consistently every day in office to fully remote, now into hybrid, I think has created I think the constant change has given a little bit of fatigue to the workers, trying to understand, where I need to go to work each day, how I'm going to do my work each day. I think that creates some ambiguity and some confusion and some stress on the workers. I'm personally not a big fan of hybrid work. I think if you're going to do it in an office so people can have a place to go work and set themselves up for the day and get good work done. Same as at home. If you're going to be remote, they can have their own place. They can work at home. They can be comfortable there. I think you just need to kind of choose what's going to work best for your employees. But I think having a constant flux of where they're going to work, what they're going to do, creates fatigue within the organization, and then they start looking elsewhere. And I think there's been a lot of, at least in our organization and others that I speak to, there's been a lot of, almost like a transient culture that we've come where people, work for a little bit, they get, a paycheck, and then they're looking for, a few extra dollars here to go work somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think that constant thought of, where can I go to get a little bit more money is creating like a lack of productivity within your own current role, because you're always thinking about what's next, what's going to happen in the future.
That's an interesting phrase, a transient workforce. So that's something. Tony, what's your sense?
Well, I would agree with that stuff, but it's neat. There's expectations have changed, because you've got expectations of workers that love to work at home, and now have been forced to go back to the office, or the hybrid one that, how do you balance that? And then you've got the expectations of management. Not necessarily our firm, but people I speak to, you want your workers back at work, but your workers don't want to go back to the office. So how do you keep them? And I know a few people, colleagues that have lost people because over the transition from working at home back to working at the office, they didn't want to work at the office, so they've lost some great people because they wanted that flexibility that they had.
And competitors
before.
will offer it.
And that's what's happening.
And Scott, what's your sense of the roots of productivity and the challenges that we've got in Ontario?
Yeah, I mean, I see there's two pieces that I think are maybe somewhat not connected but aligned. One being the aging workforce, and the other one being sort of aging technology. I think with a lot of long-standing members, it's great to have good tenure, but then as you look to introduce new sort of younger minds in the environment, it's trying to balance out retaining that knowledge base in the long tenured individuals to be able to work and transition to the new individuals, and ensuring there's that degree of patience and change, with both the way that things are operated, both from a manual standpoint as well as a technology standpoint. There's also with that a lot of legacy systems, and so I think that as you look to try to bring things into more of a current capability and technological application, change management is a big aspect there. And I think working through with that aging workforce, as we're seeing like accelerated retirements, it's creating some gaps in that talent roster within the business. And so looking to pace that out and succession plan to make sure that you're introducing those younger minds in, and to be able to glean off the more experienced individuals a lot of that know-how.
And I totally agree with that. This is kind of odd, but we've actually have one of our maintenance guys has been with us 18 plus years, and he's retiring this June. We've actually hired a technical writer to try to get his head on paper before he leaves. So it's that kind of system.
A lot of experience carried around. And Scott, do you think it's an employee productivity issue, or is it? Do you think it's regulation? Is that also an issue in your world, that red tape makes productivity more difficult to achieve?
There's certainly regulatory. I think it's if you're looking to certainly if you're in a unionized environment, but even non-unionized, where you do have individuals that, especially if your manufacturing process is manually intensive, that you naturally will have slowdowns as people will age. And so when you're looking to introduce more change to enhance that productivity, you're met with a little bit of challenge with navigating through those transitions. The aging workforce doesn't necessarily want to leave, and of course you're not necessarily looking to force them to leave, but at the same time you're trying to strongly encourage that transition of knowledge, so that there is that succession plan as they want to move on. And you're looking to step up your bench strength as far as productivity levels.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Mark, what's your sense of the key drivers of the productivity challenge? What do you see in your business?
In our business, I would tell you that there seems to be almost a disconnect to build on some of the hybrid work aspect, and we're a manufacturer, so the reality is we can't make whatever we're making without people working and showing up every day on the shop floor. Right. So, and so the problem is you have a group that you need dedicated to show up to work every day to get the product out the door, and then you have your supporting staff who has grown accustomed to this hybrid work scenario, and whether it's from a supervision level or higher up, maybe say customer service and whatnot, and just sort of, if you're not in the business, you kind of lose touch with the day-to-day. In my experience, it's better to be sort of around where the action is happening in order to get decisions made quickly. And there's nothing more inefficient than setting up a Teams meeting and you have 3 people in their offices beside each other and they're all on their computer.
Right.
Instead of
we got
instead of just, hey guys, there's a conference room
right.
the conference room right down the corner there. Just, so it's kind of breaking those habits that have developed, which even I would tell you the back to work mandates haven't broken that yet, in terms of hey, stop the Zoom meetings, team meetings, whatever they are, and let's just have a quick huddle around, the coffee maker again,
Yeah.
kind of thing, or the water cooler conversation to get some decisions made quickly. From a regulatory standpoint, I heard you ask that question. I've worked in both unionized and non-unionized environments, and I would say one thing that I found frustrating was, the union seems to be more of a legacy. They were put in times when it was absolutely necessary because maybe companies were taking advantage. I think from Ontario labor laws and whatnot, I think they've come to the point where they're even a notch above where some of the union contractual stuff would be, from a legacy standpoint. So, at my point, that just adds a little bit of more red tape and reduces a company's ability to be flexible on the shop floor to make improvements at a quicker pace than what needs to happen, in order to keep up to, say, your competitors that may be operating in different jurisdictions.
So I'm hearing everyone talk about productivity as really a question of workforce and talent and skills. So I'm curious to know what each of you have done in your businesses to attract people and try to overcome that, how to balance the challenges of people who want to work remotely and may not fit the culture or may not fit the enterprise. What are your thoughts?
Again, we make cheesies.
Right.
You have to show up to work. You can't
Right.
make cheesies from your desk at home. So
how do you find attracting and retaining people, Tony?
well,
Is that,
we've focused kind of in a different way. Again, we were having a hard time getting good people that would stay, and we've probably have I'm thinking out loud, about 6 people that are from immigration that had either gone to Loyalist College and found us. Loyalist College is a college that's in our town of Belleville. And came to us as students, and after they got their education graded, came back in a different capacity.
so that was a co-op program.
It started that way,
Right.
and what their focus is, this handful of people, their focus is to get their permanent residency, and you have to sort of understand that, and then you can work with them, and which we have, to help them get their permanent residency. And there's some real payback on that relationship. So we've had some really good luck doing that.
And Paul, what's your sense? How have you worked to retain and attract talented people who are going to lead to more productivity in your business? What's been your approach?
Yeah, I think for us, we hire a ton of young individuals, usually fresh out of college. We do mostly sales, so our average age is anywhere between 23 to 27. So attracting is not the problem, but retaining is more of a challenge.
Okay.
We bring a ton of people in. We've over the years crafted a really strong training and development program within our organization to ensure that if people were to leave, we can train the next person pretty effectively and not lose any productivity with our customers. I think the bigger problem is just how expensive it is to live. So people are always kind of thinking about, how do I make more money? How do I make more money?
Right.
And if we can't, consistently help them along that path, and sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we have managerial positions that are available and sometimes we don't. Or sometimes people aren't ready, but when they think they're ready, and they'll make that jump to another organization. So we're, especially in our organization, we're in a very competitive labor market with tons of companies vying for the best tech sales talent all the time. So if we're not constantly thinking about how to keep people engaged, how to keep them, learning new skills and broadening their ability to make money, then we're going to be losing out.
And are there non-monetary benefits that you offer that retain people, or is it strictly people mostly focused on the salary? You mentioned the hybrid working arrangements that you prefer people work in one place or another. Is that kind of approach helpful in a non-financial benefit in attracting and retaining people?
Yeah, we're a fully remote organization, so I think that's a selling feature to at least our kind of target group of people that we want to employ. But I'd say, by and large, even when we offer, good benefit package, cultural opportunities to, engage with other coworkers. But I think at the end of the day, it's, how much money can I bring in to pay for my rent and food, and
Right.
that's all getting more expensive. So what can you do for me? So that's something that we're constantly looking at, and how do we help people along that path, because we just need to continue to be competitive in market. But I get it's expensive out there, and I remember being 22, 23, and if I'm showing a little bit more money, then maybe I'm going to go for that job.
It's certainly attractive. And let's start with you, Mark. What do you find in attracting and retaining a workforce, skilled people? What have you found the challenges? How have you dealt with them? What's been your experience?
I mean, to attract skilled labor, like we went through the exercise of opening up a facility here.
Right.
So you needed a certain amount of unskilled, what I would just production folks, and then the skilled laborers in terms of what millwrights, electricians, whatnot. Very difficult, I would say, to find. Most of we found a great group of employees, very loyal. To what we talked around the table already. You have to pay.
Right.
And so if you're going to pay, you want to make sure you have the right mentality and the right the right environment for that employee to retain them. So one thing that I would say we found successful is we're located just sort of on the edge of a residential area. If that employee lives within 5 kilometers, we know they're in it for the long term.
Right. Okay.
We haven't lost one that lives really close and within close proximity. The key is to make sure that they have the right attitude and skill set to help the business as well. On the on our management side of things, it's been a lot more difficult to retain. Right, they'll leave. I mean, we're a manufacturing organization, so we're never going to be the highest paying. We won't be the lowest payer either, but we want to be a good place to work, offer great benefits. We have a nice work environment because it's a new building.
Right.
So it's just finding that mix of individual that is, and we're fairly flat. So that employee's got to be willing to learn a lot of different functions.
Right.
So we try and sell it from that standpoint. The good thing is that they come for that, but then when they get experience in, say, supply chain, and they were just, they were only expecting customer service, then they build that skill set, and then they go and they might go somewhere else.
I see.
Because they think they're ready for that next step. So.
And how about helping employees improve their skills, build those skills? If someone comes to you and wants to learn about supply chain, is it on-the-job learning? Is there a process? What
I would tell you, most of it is on-the-job training, mentoring as much time as we can spend. So we are a small business here, like the plant that we have, but we're part of a larger organization, maybe 750 million euro organization. So there are learning modules. Okay. We're setting up a whole learning system. So the nice thing is we're a small business, but we can rely on some of that more corporate backbone that we're trying to set up. So. But from our standpoint, we've had one employee, go out and do some courses, and that's for me those are easy wins to try to help retain talent and try to help employees grow.
And do you have any kind of arrangement with a local college or training cooperative? Is that part of your?
We have a co-op student right now from Waterloo, but
right.
That's again, it's early days for us, so we're just sort of setting that up. But and we've engaged, I want to say, Seneca College as well, but we haven't gone down that road yet.
Stage. Okay.
And that's something we've done with Loyalist College, and something new to us over the last 24 months. The college has always been there, but we've never really reached out to have that relationship with them. And we've done all kinds of training over the last 2 years, which has been successful and fun for the employee too, because you're putting something into them that we didn't do.
And did they bring a new approach too, Tony? Do they bring something they've learned from that college to your enterprise?
Some of the stuff we've done is 5S, and it's which is an organizational system. I don't know if you saw my office, you'd know I don't do 5S, but the
little paper on the desk.
Little paper on the desk. But it's amazing the little projects they've taken ownership of. And
right.
It's made a 75-year-old company. There's something new and exciting in that little corner, and it's really changed the attitude and the morale of the whole place.
Great. Yeah. Great. And Scott, what's been your experience with skill building and helping? You mentioned before an older workforce and people finding the challenge of adapting. How do you overcome that sort of thing? And what have been the approaches at Kielhauer?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, finding good talent is tough. I think that there is sort of two aspects between the plant, the shop floor side and the office side. I think there's a little bit of a different style there. While we do have a couple of groups on the office side that have some degree of hybrid arrangement, our preference, we make office furniture, and so we want to have people in office furniture. And so our interest is to having people on site as much as possible. Again, so just they're part of that, thread of the operations and the business. And so, we have a great culture there, very family oriented, and so, in terms of attracting new talent, that's definitely an initial posturing of the role and the opportunity to be part of a good company and a great cultural environment. But then, of course, you have to walk the talk after, and so making sure that you can demonstrate when they're on board that they can continue, following along, excuse me, in the light of that culture. From a compensation standpoint, of course, you want to be market competitive. There's a profit share program in place, so now you're able to connect their activities with the success of the business, and so I think that allows them to feel a bit of a connection there. There's also a lot of encouragement to get involved in just thought-provoking conversation and product design considerations, craftsmanship styles and techniques to be able to create exceptional furniture. And then, from the office side, I think it's definitely making sure there's some opportunity to provide the mentorship arrangements, and so I think there's some use of technology that needs to continue to evolve as the AI is being introduced in the environment, to take a lot of the mundane tasks away, because as we bring in younger talent, I think without the foundational knowledge that they would have had they have been in the working world for 30 plus years, without that foundational knowledge, I think there's a difficulty in associating their efforts to the larger picture of the business and that contributory effect. So taking that mundane work out of the mix allows you to spend time on more value-add projects and able to mentor them around and coaching around those projects and initiatives and how they'll connect to the success of the business and continued improvements, efficiencies, and what have you. So it's definitely where we've been spending a fair bit of time as we bring people in. There's sort of an executive leadership team, which I'm a part of, but then there's an operational leadership team, and so with that it allows two layers. It's relatively, even though there's a hierarchical structure, it's relatively flat in terms of communication, collaboration style, and having those collective groups gather, talk about product design, from design to market. Allows them to all be on the same page and aligned, and so that's, I think, helped a great deal, because that then cascades down to their direct reports, and everybody sort of feels part of the common mission.
Mark, have you tried process improvement in your business? I know you've just set up a factory in the last 2 years, so it's still early, but there must be a lot of experience from your European rest of your organization. How do you approach process improvement to deal with efficiency?
Yeah, so I would say on to the points that were made earlier, it's more having the buy-in of the shop floor group. If you're trying to make an improvement on the shop floor, have them involved in the change. For us, we went from having nothing on the shop floor to a few presses, and then the associated packaging equipment that goes with it. And it was a constant environment where things were changing daily, because it's just, okay, this is how we got to do it now, or we're missing this key piece of equipment, so we got to figure out a workaround. And then as we got as the process was brought forward or kept growing or kept the history kept evolving, operators would pick up habits that in the longer term it may not have been as efficient as possible, and so then you got to take it back and say, okay guys, this is the challenge here, this is the goal, what's the burning platform from an efficiency standpoint. Have the ideas, because the best people that can solve the problems are the ones that are doing the jobs, because they're thinking about it and how to make their lives easier.
Right.
And have them involved in the solution set, because and it may not be exactly what you would have wanted as the operations manager or as the plant manager, but it's going to get you to the point where they can implement it and keep it sustained, and you're going to get your efficiency gain. As long as there's obviously the key factor of safety involved as well. But typically, you have to have operators involved in the change. It's do the change together rather than have the change done to them, because otherwise it won't stick.
And sometimes
Yeah.
just saying thank you is
Yeah.
amazing. We go through that process. We have our off-site training once a year. We do through our WMIS or ladder, all the safety things. But for the last 3 years, we've given awards to the machine that's made the biggest efficiency change. Nothing massive. There's a little bit of compensation there, but it's more being brought in front of the whole organization and saying thank you out loud. These people did this, and it becomes a competition. Which is it's fun to see that happen. So.
Absolutely. So recognition and engagement. Scott, what's been the experience at Kielhauer with process improvement? What sort of have you tried these as well, or something different?
Yeah, I mean, certainly those. We definitely have a constant encouragement of engagement of the plant floor individuals. We'll have our quarterly town halls, and we'll have sort of this public broadcast of appreciation and allow employees to submit letters of thanks and whatnot, and call out individuals to praise them. On the shop floor, we've looked at like work cell design, making sure that we have actual operational efficiencies with the cell structures, so the transition of material from one station to the next. We, in sort of our one of our facilities, we have mirrored lines pretty well throughout the entire facility. So what it just allows both the continuity of that work cell expectation and process flow, but also where you have absences, you need somebody to serve as a floater and sort of fill those gaps. It allows them to basically fill any workstation because they can move from line to line and not have to sort of relearn the configuration of that work cell. We also have a process where we have our operational leadership team. They get together and discuss that product flow from introduction to furniture events like Neocon, and that whole life cycle of that through to production, making sure that product is ready to go, and with gate stops in there, so that if they're not achieving the right process, the right steps through engineering and through photography and marketing aspects, then it's sort of an all stop and call to the table to have a discussion as to whether the breakdown is, or making sure that people are realigned, so we're not kind of tripping over ourselves. Somebody's thinking that a part of the process is underway, meanwhile they haven't been given the go ahead, and so it gives that cadence from step to step to making sure that we get product out into the market on time and in the reps' hands.
Great.
One thing about retention that it's been in my head and I haven't said it out loud, money's always going to be important. There's no if, ands, or but. The compensation package is always important. But I think it's important for us to understand that the wants and needs of the workforce today are different than the wants and needs of my generation. And it's not just the compensation, although it's always top. It's lifestyle and what they can do outside of their working hours. And we've taken advantage of that by, I guess, being real flexible with some of our key staff. Again, we've got some international students who are now permanent residents that wanted to get back to India to see their parents, for a certain amount of time. So we've given them the option to take a leave of absence for up to 6 weeks, a couple of them, so they could do that. And the lifestyle that gives them, I think, gives dividends back to the relationship we have with these individuals. It's a different way of looking at things. Yes, there's a gap for 6 weeks, and management has to figure out how we're going to cover that gap. But the employee that's been given the option to do that is really appreciative.
I'm sure, and that flexibility pays off, as you're
I
saying.
think so in the long term.
This has been great. I'm so happy that we've had a chance to talk today about improving productivity. I want to thank all our panelists for their insights. We've talked about how the importance of recruitment and retaining and upskilling employees, not just financially rewards, but also lifestyle rewards. We've talked about process improvement, and we've talked about how that needs to be done in a way that engages people who are dealing with things at the first instance. So a lot of great insights. So thank everybody again for participating, and it's been a great discussion. And I'm sure these are insights that will be valuable for other businesses struggling with productivity.
Well, thanks for the invite, Mike.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.